This week, a look at the intersection of comics and graffiti with 2 interviews. First, Argentine graffiti artist and animator Koff on his cartoonish art style, the difference between a graffiti artist and a muralist, graffiti scenes around the world, which country has the best spray paint cans, and more. Then, Thomas John Behe on his series of graphic novels under the title Contraband about one possible future for social media, including the upcoming Bad Benny, a work that began as a series of graffiti art panels in different cities, and Christiania, written by his daughter Abby, a book recently discussed on our Critiquing Comics spin-off. First, if you appreciate the work we do on Deconstructing Comics and our other podcasts and want bonus content, we'd love it if you'd support the show at patreon.com/deconcomics for as little as $2 a month. Our monthly issue-by-issue look at 1960s Amazing Spider-Man comics is available to patrons chipping in at least $4 a month. Check out our goals and rewards and pledge your support now at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim, and this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo. My interview with Thomas John Behe about the Contraband series is coming up. But first, my talk with Koff, spelled C-O-F, a graffiti artist and animator in Argentina, where graffiti art is relatively new and there's no law against painting anywhere you feel like it. All right, I am on Google Meet with Koff. You were in Buenos Aires?
I'm in Santa Fe. This is my...
Santa Fe.
I was born in this city, but I lived in Buenos Aires like 15 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so in Argentina. There's a Santa Fe in America, too. So just to be clear, this is Santa Fe, Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, happy to have you on. So I was surprised looking around the web, like how much of a graffiti scene there appears to be in South America. I found there was somebody in Colombia and a bunch of others in Argentina. And I mean, is it something that you just really commonly see on the street?
Yeah, well, I think graffiti in this part of the world is not that old. It's like maybe in Brazil you have like 40 years of graffiti, but in the rest of Latin America is not that old. Most of it in Argentina, you have like 15 years of graffiti. So here is not illegal to paint. There's no law about it. So we can paint really free.
Okay.
So I guess it's developing in these years. The law is not around us yet.
I see. Okay. Well, I was going to ask about that because, it has the reputation of vandalism. And so I was wondering, like, in your case, like, do you just kind of, here's a wall and you start painting, or do you, like, ask the owner, or do they hire you to do it, or how does it work?
Okay. So my politics in this is I guess it's not like everybody else. I don't know how people take it, but I don't paint in the front of a house if I had no permission to do it. But I will paint in a public space like a square with walls. I will paint in places like you have walls that are vandalized, but I'm trying always to paint easy and calm, so I don't have to deal with the police. And if police showed up, they just ask what I'm doing, and most of the time they say, "Oh, wonderful," and they go away. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not illegal, so
No,
what are they going to do?
Yeah,
they're probably just enjoying
the art. It's not the same for other people, I guess. For people for graffiti writers that they do letters, it's a little bit more complicated for them because people don't understand what are they doing. So I guess they take it as a threat or something like that. But when they see me that I'm doing characters, and this kind of characters are like comics styles, they don't see it as a threat, so they don't say much.
So yeah, how did you come to start doing this and doing graffiti and then incorporating like cartoon styles in it? How did you get started?
Yeah, well, I'm an animator too. I work for Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, and stuff like that. So my influence is most of the time from comics and cartoons. So my work is based on cartoons. So I'm really into it. And at first, I started making letters. Like I thought everybody was doing that. So when I had like 18 and 19, I started and started with my letters, like cough at that time. But later, I saw that I could do whatever I want to do. I wanted to do so. The thing I love most is to do characters, and these kind of characters I do. So I left the letters behind, but from time to time I do some letters, but most of it is cartoons, characters.
And have you ever like done different style, like more, for example, like a more realistic style of characters, or do they tend to be mostly the cartoony ones that I saw online?
Yeah. Well, I did it, but just to do some kind of test, and I did realism, but I I guess it didn't went well because people were were not much happy about it. And but for me it's just like a test. I don't really like realism, and I took it like it's a little bit boring for me. I like to see more stuff, like more challenging stuff, and not that direct, like more poetry in the style, I guess. No, I don't know.
I see. So now you mentioned you did Cartoon Network and Disney work, and I want to ask you about that too. But on the
Okay.
graffiti side, is there any
Yeah.
like income in it, or are you just doing it like as an artist who's just doing it for the sake of art?
Well, yeah. At first, I started doing it like for pleasure, and I guess when the style was evolving and the time was passing by, from they started to invite me from different festivals, not only in Argentina, all over the continent. So I started to arrange things, and make some, and write a little bit about my work, because I just did it like without thinking about it. I didn't knew why I started to paint. I just did it like it was instinct, the need to go outside and show needed what I needed to do. I didn't knew at the time. And then when people started to invite me to festivals, and so I started to think about what I was doing. What is this, and why I do this and not other stuff. And I guess I understood based on the experience of what I was doing. Yeah.
But I mean, does any money ever come in on that side? I mean, not
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. In time, there started to show up some different festivals that they invite. At first, they invited me. They gave me like food and a place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But with the time, some of these festivals started to pay. Maybe they pay for the tickets. Maybe they didn't pay for the tickets, but they had like a fee. And well, I go to different events. Sometimes I pay for some things, and not another other times they paid me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah. For example, this year I went to Europe tour. I went to Switzerland, Germany, Spain, and in those countries I participate in this type of events that they pay for me. Some of these paid for me like a
Mm-hmm.
fee, and another well, no, they didn't pay much of.
Okay, so sometimes they pay
Yeah,
something
yeah.
significant, and sometimes they don't. But
For me, the most I receive, I get the money most from cartoons, from
sure,
animated
sure, Disney and Cartoon
advertising.
Network. Sure, I
Yeah,
figured
yeah,
that was
yeah,
where most of the money was
yeah,
coming
yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah.
And how did you get into doing Disney and Cartoon Network stuff?
Well, I started with digital art
Mm-hmm.
first. So when I felt that I was a professional, I started to apply to different studios.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Argentina, you have a lot of studios that works for all over the world because it's cheap. It's cheap for
Mm-hmm.
producers and directors
Mm-hmm.
to work with people from here, and here is a lot of talent. If you look in the history of animation, here are the first animators in the world. For example, Walt Disney came here in the 40s to work with Quirino Cristiani. He was an Italian guy that came to Argentina to live here, and he started to develop these cartoon animations in black and white, and that made origin to Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
So here are a lot of talented people working for animation, for not so much for Argentina, but yeah, for United States, India, Russia, France.
Okay. And could you give me an example of some work that you've done for Disney or Cartoon
Okay,
Network?
well, yeah, I worked for the Cartoon Network image. It's not the episode. The episodes itself, it's like more like all the image around those episodes. So, for
Like the station
example,
IDs and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, right. We make like different characters from different shows to interact for the channel. So we had the style Bible that we need to check all the time to ensure that we are doing the head right and the hands and the colors. I don't know. It's pretty fun to work, and you learn a lot about this working with
Yeah.
other
Well,
people,
then you
right?
kind of have to work in several different styles in the same
Yeah,
job because you've got Titans Go style and you've got Powerpuff Girls style and whatever.
right.
So,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
And for Disney, what did you do with them?
What I did, they have this show Phineas and Ferb. For example, I did some work for this show.
Okay.
And there was several years ago, so I don't remember quite well the shows that I worked in, but I remember Phineas and Ferb. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've certainly watched that. That's a good show.
But this was for the TV shows, not for the for the movies.
Right, yeah,
More for the
TV shows.
chapters. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in terms of graffiti, have you ever tried to like do sequential art as graffiti, or like tell stories with it, or what I saw online tended to all be like a one panel cartoon maybe, but
Right. Yeah. I feel like people, when they see my artwork, they're waiting for something more. Like, this is like kind of a story, but where's the rest of it? But it's just that it's like I do one frame of an imaginary story, and this is this frame. If you look at some of my work, it's connected in one point, because I had a story in my mind that I'm developing in these walls. But in this last year's 2021 and this year, I worked a lot with NFT art, and that changed a little bit in my mind, because I started to make more frames inside the whole design, and started to mix digital with analog, the digital art with the walls. So, for example, I took some walls and erased some part of the wall, and put there the same things, but in digital and with movement. So I created an NFT collection with walls, animated walls.
Okay.
So that was fun, and people liked it. So I'm starting to mix my passions.
Sure. Okay.
The digital and the analog. Yeah.
Have you heard of any like other graffiti artists who have done sequential art as graffiti?
Well, there's this guy that he paints at the streets, like all the movement of a character in the same wall. For example, he on one wall I saw last week, he do this skater that jumps in a gap, jumps a stair, and every frame is in the same wall. So you Dan Bootleg is the name of this guy. But if you look back, like in 2008, there was this Italian graffiti artist, Blue. He used to do animation in the wall. It's crazy, because he he covers it, he paint again, he covers it, and then he's doing like a stop motion with photo, and he's covering all the time his own work, just to do this animation. You can find it in YouTube. It's a lot of work, and it's amazing. Blue. I don't know what he's doing these years, because I don't see much from him, but he did.
How do you spell? How do you spell his name?
BLU.
BLU. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, graffiti, I mean, we tend to think of cans of spray paint as the main tool. But, I mean, your art looks so sophisticated that I'm thinking there must be some other tools that you need besides the paint. So, tell us, like, what do you use, and what are kind of the steps of making a work on a wall?
Well, it depends in the size of the wall. If the wall is big, it's a big wall. I need to see where is going to be every part of the design. Where is it's going to be the eye? Where it's going to be the mouth? Because if you are close to the wall, you cannot see anything. It's like you need to go back to see the hole, and then start to paint. There's different techniques to do this. You could do it with a grill. Acrylic.
A grid.
Agreed. But you could do it with a projector, like
Project the picture on the wall and then paint
that's
according
it's
to what's
easier.
projected.
Right. It's easier that way because you don't have to think about proportions because it's there. You just need to go where the lines are.
Right.
So this is the first instance in this. But then for the big fields, I use plastic paint like latex. So I fill all the inside, and when I need to do the lines, I do it with spray cans. Well, sometimes I don't have spray cans because one of these last festival I participate in Ecuador, they didn't have spray cans, so I did it all with latex and
The brushes.
brush. Yeah,
I see.
it's a little bit slower, but it's I can get the same style with the brush. Yeah.
Do you ever use stencils?
No,
No?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Some artists do, though, right?
Yeah, sure. No, but I for me, I need to work with my lines. I need to. I don't know. I guess I need to feel free because sometimes I improve. I freestyle a lot. When the wall is really big, I need to plan to have everything on control. But if the wall is like, I don't know, 2 meters tall, it's not that complicated for me. So
Sure.
I really love to work with freestyle. For me, freestyle it's part of my work. I many times I go to the wall and I look at the wall and I say, I don't know what I'm going to paint, but this wall tells me that I paint, I don't know, gorilla or some stuff, and I start to work it.
Well, I was noticing sometimes you have to like work around like windows or something. Like you can't put anything there. So I think there was one. I think it was yours that I saw online. That like some guy was there was a character there, but he'd like removed his head because there was a window there where his head should be.
Oh yeah. I didn't paint that, but it was one of my partners. We were painting, and one of the guys, took the head off. Because,
Right.
it was great.
Well, and speaking of partners, I thought that was interesting because, like in comics, you would rarely see like, 2 or more artists working together on one work, but it seems to be common in graffiti. So, like, how do you work at like combining different artists together so it doesn't seem jarring, like 2 completely different styles in the same picture or something? You must have to kind of talk it out with the other artist.
Well, this is a good question because that's why I don't paint with a realistic artist because I don't feel the connection there. But I love to connect with other artists that have similar styles with me. My crew partner is Grito. He have similar and different style with me, and I love to connect with him. We create the sketch together. Maybe some of us, I have an idea. What you think about this? And he take it, he modify it, and so we get the sketch and we go outside and paint it. I love to connect with other artists, and I love to paint alone. I love both dynamics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said his name was Grito? I think I saw him mentioned
There's two grito. There's one
Two
grito
gritos.
from Argentina. Yeah. There's one grito from Argentina, and there's another one in Spain. But the name from the guy from Spain is not grito. It's like GR170.
I see. So he writes it with some numbers, but
Yeah.
pronounces the same. Okay.
Yeah.
So I ran across something and I wanted to ask you about this just to increase my own knowledge. But so I guess that when words are in graffiti, they're called tags. Is that right?
Well, the tags are the signature of every graffiti artist or graffiti
Signature.
writer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a signature.
And then I saw mentioned that there was something called throw-ups and pieces, but
Yeah.
I couldn't find out what those actually are. So what do
Right.
those terms mean?
Okay. When you are a graffiti writer, you do like it's the school of graffiti. It start with a tag. You need to do a tag that looks professional. I don't know how to say it. Like looks neat, looks precise. I don't know.
Sure.
You need to discover or to learn the movement and the how you say equilibrium.
Equilibrium.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of balance.
Yeah, the balance, right. First, it's a tag. Then you go to the throw up. The throw up is like a tag, a more complex tag. When you feel, you first you do the signature, but with more like lettering style. Every letter has a form, like but different shapes. You feel it, and then you do the lines.
So it has
After,
outline in one color and a fill in a different
yeah,
color.
there's just two colors, and one is there. These are like bundle procedures, because you need to do it fast. You need to do it good. You need to do it like good. The time pressure don't have to affect you. You need to do it fast
So
and clean.
do it well, but do it fast so you don't get caught.
Right. After the throw up, then you go to the piece. The piece is like every letter has more detail and more colors. It's more precise in every way. You take more time to do this piece, and well, if you're a graffiti writer, most of the time you don't do characters, you do letters with your name or your crew name. But well, I prefer to do characters, so I don't want to do it fast, so I prefer to take my time alone or with other people.
I see. Okay. Now, from what I saw online, it seems like you've traveled to a lot of other countries and you've seen graffiti art scenes in other parts of the world. So how do those scenes compare with Argentina's graffiti?
Well, if I compare Argentinian graffiti with other Latin American countries, it's really young. Brazil, as I was telling you, it's like 40 years in graffiti. They had their own style. They had what they call pichação, that it's like tagging, but hanging from a building. They do one letter per story. So one letter here, they go down with a rope. They do the other letter. If you go through the big cities in Brazil, in the avenues, you see every building painted in the roof, from the roof to the ground. all of the front painted. This is with a really characteristic letters, the design of these letters. So Brazil has like 40 years. Chile has like 30 years, and the rest of Latin. Oh well, Mexico has have like 30 years, 35 years. I guess Mexico is really connected, culturally connected with the United States. So they started a lot of time, and they are the oldest from Latin America, with Brazil in the graffiti history. But I guess, Bolivia, Paraguay, Peru, those countries are the youngest.
Just getting started there with graffiti.
Yeah. But in Argentina, we are really centralized in the capital, that is Buenos Aires, because the country is really big, and it's really different. In you have desert, you have jungle, you have mountains, you have sea. It's all different landscapes and realities too. But the main city with the graffiti history is Buenos Aires, and all around Buenos Aires, I'm like 5 hours from there, so it's not that long. Not, and here is developing, always behind Buenos Aires.
How about like in Europe? I guess you've been to Europe, haven't you?
Yeah. No, the graffiti, the art in the streets in Europe is amazing. It's in another level. For different reasons. One of the reasons is because they had the material to do it from a long time. They had the best material to do it. For example, in Spain, you have Montana. Montana 94 is one of the best spray cans in the world. So it's a pleasure to work with this can. And
interesting. I never thought there were different kinds of spray cans for paint.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You could have your favorite. But for me, Montana 94 is the best.
Okay.
But also you have a Greek spray can that is really good. Greece have a really good spray can too. Italy. Yeah. Okay. And they had in the history of graffiti, they had a lot of time working in this. If you compare with Latin America, they are like, I don't know, maybe they getting like to 50 years working with that. So there's a lot of experience.
Have you been to Asia at all? And here in Tokyo, I don't see all that much graffiti. I see some, but it's not very sophisticated and probably illegal, I assume.
Yeah, it is illegal in Tokyo. Yes, it is illegal also in all of Europe, but people disobey. I guess in Japan, not that much.
Yeah, I think not that much. Although I feel like I've seen a few instances where maybe someone was hired to paint something on the side of a building, right. like the whole side of a 5-story building. There's something,
right? But there's a difference there, because when you paint that big, you become a muralist. That is not graffiti anymore.
Okay.
Maybe you started with graffiti, but when you go when you start paint bigger, you become a muralist. So that's okay with that. Everybody. Yeah. People will hire you to that. When you ask me about people paying me for do it. For paint, I do it as a muralist. When they pay me, I'm doing it as a muralist, not as a graffiti writer.
Okay, so graffiti you do just for pleasure, and murals you do for money. Okay,
right, and pleasure.
And pleasure, sure. Yeah, it sounds like a fun job. So, I mean, you've been doing this yourself for, I gather, over 20 years.
Right.
And have you noticed any change in public attitudes toward graffiti art?
Sure, sure.
So how is it different?
Yeah, well, at first, when people see you in the beginning of the painting, and they don't understand what you're doing, back in the days, they freaked out, like what are you doing? But if they find you with most of the piece finished, they take it better. Like, oh, nice drawing. I don't know, but yeah. At first, I'm talking about Buenos Aires because here in Santa Fe, they didn't say anything when you were painting in the street. But at first, they were kind of scared about it. But then when they got used to this kind of art, they was you had different peoples, because when you're painting, people come and ask you nice or not. Maybe some people don't like it and don't want to know about anything. They just maybe tell you go away. Sometimes they told me go to work. Yeah, but in my experience, most of the time, people is receive these kind of actions with with good intentions. I don't know. They don't see as a threat. They don't see it as a threat, I guess.
Okay. What kind, is there like some kind of art or art kind of accomplishment that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
Yeah. I really would like to paint, I don't know, like a 10, 12-story building. I really would like to paint bigger walls, because for me, that's a really good challenge. I'm working on it because it's not easy to do this, because you need to arrange a lot of things. You need to talk with the administrator of the building, with the neighbors, with the city hall. You need to talk with everybody. You need to present like a written project that tells what you're going to do, and if people like it, you're gonna do it. If people don't like it, you cannot do it. So for me, that's the challenge right now. I really would love to paint bigger walls. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the best way that people could take a look at your work online?
Well, today I just launched my site, my website, my renewed site. It's cof.ar.
Yeah, and COF is COF.
Yeah.
COF.ar. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll be sure to link to that.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. This has been really great. It's really interesting.
Oh, Tim, thank to you. For me, it was a pleasure and a surprise that you contacted me for this.
I've linked in the show notes to COF's website and some other information about him and the Argentine graffiti scene. Coming up, Thomas John Behe on how the first draft of his graphic novel Bad Benny was made on numerous walls in different cities. First, just a reminder that you can help this podcast by making your Amazon purchases via deconstructingcomics.com/Amazon and make that your bookmark for future purchases. Deconstructing Comics earns a bit of money from your purchase that helps us keep the show going. We really appreciate your support.
Greetings from Wayne Manor Memoirs, a podcast dedicated to exploring the Batman mythos.
Each episode, we research a character, story, contributor, or piece of pop culture related or adjacent to the Dark Knight,
And try to understand why these topics are important to the Bat mythos. I'm Joe.
I'm Kendall, and some of our favorite topics include the transformation of Mr. Zero into Mr. Freeze,
The early appearances of the Riddler,
Booster Gold,
Commandi,
Jim Aparo,
and many, many more. Check out Wayne Manor Memoirs every other Friday, wherever you download your podcasts.
and follow us at Wayne Manor Memoirs on Facebook or at W Memoirs on Twitter.
Until next time, Bat Fanatics, be brave.
And stay bold.
Okay, so I am talking with, get your name right, Thomas John Behe, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, in the UK, but you're originally from Canada.
Absolutely, that's right.
Okay, so tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, nice to meet you, Tim. I'm Thomas Sean Behe. I'm based in London, England at the time. I grew up in Canada, as you mentioned. I have sort of a background more sort of in identity and business. Worked for a couple of companies, did some really nice projects over the spring, notably the last sort of 5-10 years. Had a little startup that I tried out with my friend as well to have some sovereignty over your identity rather than giving them to all the big companies. But what I really like to do is I write comics, and I've been writing comics for about sort of 20 years. It sort of stems from my creative writing that I was doing before I had to go and make a living being a business type guy. But it's been really fun. I started writing comics. My first book was published in 2007 by a company called Slave Labor Graphics.
That's right about the same time they rejected my comic, but anyway.
Oh, well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to lie. It was, I suspect that might have been the case for myself as well, but my artist was a gentleman named Phil Elliott, and he's just a phenomenal illustrator. He's kind of a Ling Claire kind of, tint. I think I heard the term Tintin on crack, I think was kind of how someone described his illustrations for my book, and it worked really perfectly. So, so I started a Contraband series all the way back then, and the original release of that sort of coincided nicely with, well, I wouldn't say nicely, it coincided nicely with some things that weren't so nice, which were a lot of the sort of mobile video recording. Smartphones started to become more prevalent. And then inevitably, as society tends to be, they like to abuse that by somehow. And we had a thing called happy slapping. And what happy slapping was, where it's really odd. I was like a girl, and she had her phone, and she was filming 4 or 5 of her friends, doing a violent sort of act on this group of under a bridge. They caught the men that were doing it. They put them in jail for 10 years, and they put her in jail for 10 years for videoing it. And I thought, you know what, this is an interesting sort of concept, isn't it? And it was something new at the time, which now everybody knows. You can't go anywhere without somebody trying to stick their phone in people's face and filming and do that, or watching concerts and, don't watch the concert, film the concert, right? That sort of thing. So. But yeah, so back then it was quite a novelty, and it came out at a really good time, and I got some nice feedback, and some people in LA were interested in that. So yeah, I kind of returned back to that about sort of 4 or 5 years ago. My current publisher, Marcosia, thought they would come out and they really liked the book. They thought it was quite timely now because of the how things in the dark web is becoming much more prevalent, and of course I'll talk a little bit about the book in a bit, but. But yeah, it's been really good. I'm really kind of pushing more episodes out from the Contraband. So we've got 4 books, additional books coming out. Well, the first one is probably the one we will talk about today, about Bad Betty. And
right. So we should mention Christiania that Jason and I talked about on Critiquing Comics. The writer was your daughter.
That's right. Yeah,
Abby. How do you pronounce it?
Abby. Yeah, Abby. She's my 13-year-old daughter. Yeah, that's true. Possibly maybe slightly early for her to kind of delve into the content of Contraband. But she was, she's pretty cool. She's kind of yawns a bit at Stranger Things. She likes her. She's actually really, really cutting and really biting. So she got stuck in a contraband. She quite liked it, and so we talked about some stories that she would write, and yeah, it kind of helped her through it. And I was, I had some really good sort of ideas to help her with, and she had some great ideas to come together. And we put together a 25-page. Sort of almost like a mock kids book. It's got the illustrations that make people believe that, hey, I'm getting something off the kids shelf here for say a 9 or 10-year-old. But as you know, Tim, it's not. It's rather much more serious and much more darker content than what the illustrations kind of do. But that was a great experience. And the illustrator Taka from Argentina, he's just he's a phenomenal guy, and he spent a lot of time crafting that. It was about a 2-year project that he was working on. So, yeah, she started when she was, I guess she had been like 11 or 12, and then got through, and yeah, here she is. Yeah, so I was really proud of her. Yeah.
How did we do at figuring out the story in Christiania? We were a little stumped.
No, you're pretty good. I mean, I think it was really, and that's a really good point, because what I'm trying to do is to create sort of 24, 25 page double page spread, only no words, go in, take the image, absorb it, pick up the meaning, move to the next page. And I thought, it kind of fits nicely, I think, with the whole sort of contrast to how social media is. And of course, that is all about social media and influencers and how things could go wrong, or some of the more darker elements of that. So it kind of contrasts, as opposed to flying through all your news feeds with your fingers and your thumbs and sucking up content and reading text really quickly. You kind of make the viewer, the reader, I should say, stand and kind of look there at it almost like an art piece for like 2-3 minutes and try to get the meaning and work your way through. But you correctly said that it's important to have a really good blurb on the back. It's purposely there. It's purposely there to give people a steer. And what I've also done is for stories that come out published, we offer a sort of a simple plot overview on the website. So I'll direct you to that after, Tim, if you still want it.
Okay. So Christiania was part of this contraband project of yours, which I guess started before Abby was even born, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's quite interesting. The book came out. I was so excited because obviously, like yourself, you have a comic, you try to get it published, and, you send it out to 30 publishers, and inevitably they say, well, we don't know you, and how are you going to make it? And then I got the publishing deal, and I was like, wow, great. And I was so excited. And the book was ready to come out, and I had some pretty good pre-reviews. I had a nice conversation with a gentleman named Ben Templesmith, who does 30 Days of Night. Just obviously not necessarily a big horror fan, but just a phenomenal artist. And he was saying how cool he thought it was. And the truth is, I was really getting excited. And the book came out 2 weeks after I had my son, and I was like, what book? Wow, my son is here.
Priorities,
so I was just like, I was so excited. I was like, oh, nothing beats having my kid, Don't know what was going on. And it was just really a great time. Got some good press. I flew over to Los Angeles, and there was a gentleman named Simon Wakeland, who was the husband of Tia Carrere from Wayne's World. And they have a production company. So they bought the option on that for about 18 months. So I got to work with him for about 18 months on the script and peddling it around to some places in Hollywood. So I kind of got a good feeling that got some traction. I think that was probably a good indication that, there's some weight, some interest in it. And, I think, what I'm hearing now, and when we re-released that book through Marcosia last year, is that, this is not going to go away. It's actually it's now kind of taking more of a historical angle to how social media was. Like, well, okay, this kind of came out 2007, but at which point will mainstream social media people get fed up, or when will they go onto the dark web? It's not a question, I think, of if. It's probably more when, isn't it? Where you want to have these communities that are working sort of in tandem with each other off the grid, right? Not using the Twitter, with no Facebook, and so. It seems to be sticking, and I sort of wanted to develop the stories, and obviously Abby's book has got a little sort of a side episode based on that, and the one we'll talk about, which is around the graffiti piece, would be like that as well. So yeah, it's been a really fun thing to revisit, and it's a really simple concept. I think I can probably just blurt it out now. It's you have a situation where the world's best dark web app that everybody starts using gets hacked, and the hack actually allows whoever the number one influencer is to own the actual app. So if you can imagine how far people would go to actually not just be number one influencer, say like, Kim Kardashian or Justin Bieber or Ronaldo or who it might be. But as soon as you get ownership of that app, you get all the money and you get all the power. And so I kind of think, well, really, what would people do if they could get number one? And the answer is these episodes say they will do anything. It will be some insane things that families will do to each other. Collaboration. I think there's a lot of different areas you can explore with that, and that's kind of where I'm going at with sort of these 4 books that sort of coming out under that sort of umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Taka, the artist on Christiania, he's a graffiti artist.
No, he's actually a pure sort of comic cartoon guy. Yeah. So on Christiania, he wanted to come in and I had some, we had some ideas around the artwork, and obviously with Abby, and he's got a very nice jovial style. So I felt that a lot of the color and a lot of the animation, and obviously what he did is he actually extracted a lot of the graffiti imagery that is based in Copenhagen, in Freetown, Copenhagen. I went with Abby and we took some photographs and we saw all the different artwork and we said, look at, blend this all into the design, right? So he was able to replicate and the graffiti that's been put up there over the last sort of 40, 50 years. And even I went to Copenhagen in December to sort of show it around to some of the shop owners and stuff, and just to get it. And there's all brand new graffiti everywhere, and I'm just like, I wish I could have got that one in there too. But I think that's kind of a part of the power of the detail. He really did spend a lot of time on getting that sort of nice bits of graffiti all slapped into.
I wanted to ask why Christiania was set in Copenhagen. What the connection?
Well, yeah. So Christiania is actually the name of the town, of the little community within.
Yeah, I found that out after we recorded that episode.
Yeah. So we thought it would be kind of good because it's sort of a free spirited, community centric, lots of love with the people, and it's a real sort of, I wouldn't say a hippie kind of community, but kind of a bit like that, a little bit, a lot of peace, very like anti-drug, all that kind of stuff, and she's a metaphor of that. So when we created the character, we spoke with Abby and we said, well, look at this girl is Christiania, so how do you make her representative of where she's from and who she is? And then of course when you have social media, and notably the villain in the book coming in after her, it's kind of like, it kind of sets a nice sort of message, that can, she can fight back the gangs, and she can, get caught for doing some unscrupulous things. But when it comes to social media and influence, you just can't get in the way of these people, So we want to create the sort of super villains almost of that. So yeah, that's kind of where, so we selected that, and I lived in Copenhagen did some work down there for about 2 years. So I was always a big fan of the place. So I sort of said, I can't wait to, we're going to, Abby, we're going to get a comic out of this place. It's too cool. And she loves the place too. So,
yeah. So, have you had a long interest in graffiti artists?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because when I thought about doing sort of Bad Benny, and then, again, this is the idea around Bad Benny was, I thought I'd seen some graffiti. I know people were becoming more and more interested, obviously from, we started working on the Christiania book before we started doing Bad Benny. So I had a look at the graffiti and the quality was there. And I just think that it's almost like comic books, and I think Tim from being in the industry, that the amount of work and effort that's put into the artwork, like it's incredible how people will do these massive, not only just the street art that you see, which is kind of quite nice and pretty, but even the graffiti, the layers and the level of the number of hours that people will spend on creating that, all for just having it there, knowing it's going to get covered over at some point, and it's just like, wow, you really must love doing this. So, I think there's a lot interesting doing this project. So obviously with Bad Benny, I went out and I said, you know what, I would love to have a comic book, a graffiti comic book, but get graffiti artists to actually do the graffiti on it. And that was my first thought. I thought, well, or at least one graffiti artist doing a graffiti comic book. So I thought that would be quite neat. And then, interestingly, I struggled a little bit to find one artist that could kind of commit to doing so many pages, which is fair. It's a lot of work, 24 pages. Mm-hmm. If it was one person, I'd probably be still talking to you about it, and we might only be a third of the way through or something like that, right? However, what I thought, I said, well, you know what? I think if I can go out around the world and find people who are interested in comics and graffiti, I wonder if I can get them to kind of do a page. And then I thought, well, if they have their own style and they have their own sort of way they want to do the graffiti, they want to do it in color, they want to do it monochrome, that's fine. Come up with some new concepts, new ideas, and then what we can do is we can amalgamate them and pull them together and create sort of a consistent comic, but also profile some of the artists in the back of the book as well. And that seemed to work okay, because I had no problem finding, we ended up with 16 artists that did all the pages. They were from 9 countries. Mm-hmm. 2 amazing artists from Britain, KJ and Sarah. These, they were amazing. They were really keen to do it. And so right now I'm kind of having a little bit of promotional stuff around it because it's going to come out in a couple months. So, they did there's a really nice interview for the BBC, which I'll share with you as well, where she's talking about some of the work she's done on it as well and what she likes to do. And these really interesting people. But, there was a 17-year-old kid in Sweden, and he likes to go out back to, he's got these it's ice, right? It's frozen, but he'll still go to this building and do his graffiti on the side. I'm like, oh, mate, you have to do a page as well. So it was really great. We all had different pages come out at different times. So if people wanted to follow the story, we would post the page on Facebook. They had to wait for the next page to be done. And, the first one popped up in England. The second one was in Indonesia. The third one was in Slovakia, and so on and so on. So it was quite cool. And I hadn't really come across the concept before. So I thought, let's see if we can get through the whole pages. And we did. And we have a product. Yeah, I think we've got an interesting, we just got an interesting comic as well. There's actually an okay comic in there to read amongst all the sort of funky graffiti tactics that we've been doing and trying to get people to do it. So really, really exciting. Yeah, it seems to be getting some good headway. Yeah.
So you had all these different artists do the panels of the comic on walls in different cities, but then the book itself is all by one artist. Kind of, they use the graffiti artist's work as kind of the starting point.
Absolutely, yeah. Because what had happened was, like in one case, they did a page. He went back the next day. He took some rough photographs. He went back the next day with his good photography. It's gone. So it was already cleared out. I was like, oh wow, that's so there was a lot of different styles, and so they actually use the pages themselves as themselves. It was a bit challenging because some of the artwork wasn't quite well. We wanted to have it consistent, but at the same time, what could we pull out from all the different artists, and we showcase some of the key artists are in the back of the book as well, so you can actually see their style and what was then elicited. But Mike Bogdanovic, he's a Bosnian illustrator, really nice guy, really likes his cats for some reason. I don't know. I think he likes his cats more than he likes myself, that's for sure. But anyway, he was great. He was able to pull it together, and we spoke about how that style would come together. Again, very simple, but there was also would be representative of what they'd done. Say honor how they did it. It's be respectful for how the different types of graffiti artists and the styles that came in. So yeah, that was the end product there.
Okay. So what is Bad Benny about?
Yeah, well, Bad Benny. I was always fascinated with police officers here in the UK because I don't know if. Growing up in Canada and obviously in America and growing up with American cop shows, police are tough. They're pretty. They have a lot of power. They got guns, and in the UK they have different layers. They have normal police officers, Met Police, and then they have this thing called the police support officers, and it's almost like they're fake cops. I was like, well, what do these people do? And these poor people, they're like, you're a police officer, but and actually in the UK, it's better now. They're not as respected as they should be. So I thought he was a perfect character, and they tend to be the ones that work. They're doing community patrols. In this particular case, I've got Benny, who's one of these police officers, and he kind of patrols the rail to make sure the graffiti artists aren't making a mess of the trains. But he also works football matches. And poor Benny, he doesn't really like football too much. He definitely doesn't like graffiti artists very much either, because they're the bane of his existence. And of course, having his father who really loves football and loves one particular player on the team more than he even loves his own son, it kind of just it just gets pretty bad for poor Benny. But what he discovers is he's quite sure that he's come across a video on contraband, which confirms that top football star, like a Ronaldo type character, was actually involved in some crime as a child, and he's dead certain that he's got him. He can confirm that he was a criminal as a child, and the video would prove it. Poor Benny, no one believes him, of course, because of course Jose is he's the best footballer. But yeah, and it's all about his chase. He's trying to prove it. A little bit of a crime investigation tucked in, and it's got a little twist. I don't know the way the twist what happens at the end, but yeah, it is. There is a little bit of a parody of how the fame that like a footballer or a sports star would get. Obviously, Ronaldo comes to mind. He's the big one right now, isn't he? So, but yeah, and that's essentially what it's about. Yeah.
Okay, and now all of the books in the Contraband series are wordless comics.
Yeah, no. The first book, which is the first book, is a very wordy book, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I didn't get some nice press back from them, but some of the ones did find it a little chunky. So I did get asked the other day from someone whether am I doing books now wordless because I overcooked it the first time. The answer is no. I am desperately trying to allow people to kind of imagine what the story kind of plays out, and yeah, I'd like them to look at it 2 or 3 or 4 times and pick up the meaning. And there's always one little hook in all of these books which you'll go back and go, I see that, and I can share that one with you on this call about Christianity as well, because I think there's probably one little bit that you might not have picked up when in your podcast, but that's good. I can look at. Yeah, well, that's good. I'll call that one out. But yeah, absolutely, they're all going to be wordless.
Okay, so all except that very first one, have been and will be wordless. Okay, so how many books will there be?
So
open-ended.
So interesting. We had. I thought there were going to be 3, but we've come up with a 4th, which kind of plays on the Contraband number 1, and it's going to be everyone's it's so much better than the previous one. You know how it is. It's like, my next episode, I can't wait to get stuck into it. Once Christianity comes out later this year, we have a book which is called Charlie Dirtbags, and it plays on the concept that everybody wants to be Contraband number 1, and if you've got 5 really villainous criminal influencers that can band together and with a collected amount of schemes and scams and villainy, they can hit number 1 as long as they work together. But of course, they're villains, and inevitably, is that going to all play out well? Well, let's see. So yeah, Charlie Dirtbags is a really fun one, and to be fair, my daughter was involved in that one as well. She was really getting stuck in and had some really, really good ideas on that. And then finally, the last book will be it's a night title to be named, but it's going to be about I'm going to probably wrap in some comic artists and contraband in there somehow. So I'll leave that one for now. So we're still work in progress.
Now, you said you put the photos of the graffiti artists' walls on Facebook. Are those still up to we could take a look at them?
Yeah, you can go to Facebook now. I mean, we finished up. I believe we finished up sort of the end of August. It's almost been a year, to be fair.
What's the Facebook account?
It's called Contraband Bad Benny. That's it. Yeah, so you can have a look at some of the postings that we did.
Okay, yeah, I found it, so I'll link to it. All right, well, cool. So, and when does Bad Benny come out?
Yeah, it may. I mean, we got a release date of May, so I don't have the exact date, but it will be in May. But I'll definitely loop back to you and let you know when that exact date.
Okay, now is that before or after Christiania?
No, so Christiania is going to come out after Bad Penny. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's we're going to time them a little bit more around the. Yeah, we got a Bad Betty one is in production. It's at the printers right now. So yeah, that's right.
Okay, so then Christiania, and then was it Charlie Dirtbags?
Charlie Dirtbags, yeah, Charlie Dirtbags. I've got 2 pages left to do on Charlie Dirtbags. I've got a really lovely artist, Tom Muzzle. He actually did a lot of the art. He did the artwork for my son's book, Johnny Recruit, and he has done all the double page spread, really nice, sort of just a black and white ink. He's doing all the art for Charlie Dirtbags. Yeah, so he's having a lot of fun with that. I'm having a lot of fun with that one, actually. It's just pure carnage. So, yeah.
Okay. You can find links to information about Contraband in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this week's show or any other Deconstructing Comics episodes, tell your friends. Share your favorite episodes on your social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube by clicking our social media buttons at deconstructingcomics.com. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. If you're looking for some constructive feedback on your comic, send it to us and we'll critique it on our spin-off podcast, Critiquing Comics. Send it to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. We'll read it and record our critique. Next week, Critiquing Comics contributor Jason McNamara takes the guest chair to talk about his upcoming graphic novel with artist Alberto Massagia called Past Tense. It's a thriller about the perils of a future where time-traveling drones are used for a big money service to see any event in the past. Kumar will also be on to review the book with me. Plus, I'll talk with podcaster Alex Squires about his audio drama The Starwell Foundation, in which comics-type heroes and other celebrities get to meet underprivileged or very ill kids, a la the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But what happens when a kid wants to meet a villain? Also, Kumar talks about his recent resignation as translator of the manga Cypher Academy and the unexpectedly huge reaction that followed. That's all next week. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.